welcome again. Hopefully this works a bit better than it did this morning. Yeah, thanks for joining us again. Thank you for being patient with all the little technical things that we're trying to iron out. That video there, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Rob put that together. I know when I watch it, it really makes me miss the ocean, so I'm sure it does the same with you guys. But yeah, it's really great to have you here. Yeah, so we're just going to get started, straight away, hey? So today we are looking at reef fish identification again, okay? So we did our first reef fish identification lecture yesterday, okay? Like I said yesterday, there are going to be 3 of these lectures. So if you did miss yesterday's one, it is up on the classroom. So just find the link. I'm sure if it has not been posted yet, it will be, okay? So you can go watch the recorded versions of that. Otherwise, we'll just get stuck into the lecture today. So first off, we're going to talk about groupers and cods. All right, so these are our Serranidae. These are a strong, kind of robust fish, okay? So they've got quite almost a chunky body, I guess, like quite a strong looking body. All right, they are also characterized by rounded pectoral fins. So you'll remember your pectoral fins are the fins on the sides of the fish, okay? So these fins over here are quite rounded. Another key distinguishing feature of these fish is that grumpy looking downwards turned mouth, okay? So they're quite grumpy looking fish. Whenever you see them, they never look like they're having a good time on the reef, but they are, yes, they do have those kind of grumpy mouths. They've also got one continuous dorsal fin, and they feed on crustaceans mostly, okay? So some species do also feed on small reef fish and that kind of thing, but for the most part they are feeding on crustaceans. So they are carnivores, they are predators on our reef, and they actually often hunt alongside our moray eels. So you can see these two over here. Here's our grouper on this side, all right, and there's our moray eel. Okay, so they often are found living quite close to each other because they help each other hunt. So the moray eels are nice and elongated. They can dip into little reef crevices and that kind of thing, and they chase any potential prey out for the grouper to get a hold of. And then they'll switch turns, so they do help each other hunt. Now you'll see here we also have our little sea goldie over here. So you guys might recognize this if you are divers. You've probably seen fairly large groups of these smaller fish, okay? They are a subfamily of the rock cod family, so we do kind of include them in this group. So your sea goldies are small, brightly colored fish that congregate in large shoals above the reef in search of zooplankton. Now, zooplankton is basically just the little animals in the plankton, okay? So we get phytoplankton, which would be your plant cells that are in the plankton, and then you get zooplankton. So zooplankton are our animals. So with our goldies, and actually most rock cods, they all start off as females. So this is another group that likes to change sex as they mature. So particularly with the goldies, they start off as females, and they form these harems. So it's like a big group, okay, and there'll be the largest, most dominant female will become a male, and he will then bully all the other females to keep them submissive, keep them in check, okay, and then he will mate with all of them. The males are often also more brightly colored than the females, okay, so we can see on this example here, you've got that little filament as well that sits on the head that you might be able to see here, and then yes, they are a lot more brightly colored than the females are. Now, your groupers are solitary animals, okay, and they are bottom dwellers, which means you mostly find them on their own, all right? They don't hang around in groups too much, apart from the goldies, okay? We're kind of talking more about our classic groupers, rock cods, that kind of thing now. So yes, they are solitary. They don't like to hang around in big groups at all. They like to be on their own, and you will often find them using those rounded pectoral fins to kind of perch on rocks or coral, so they'll be resting just sitting on the reef like that, or they might be hiding under ledges or inside caves and that kind of thing. So looking at some of the different examples of groupers and rock cods that we might see in Sodwana, here are some of our examples here. And again, just looking for those key characteristics. So we can see that grumpy, downwards turned mouth here, and we can see that rounded pectoral fins. Okay, this one over here is a favorite amongst many divers. Okay, this is our brindle bass, and then the very closely related potato bass over here. So yeah, I know a lot of divers, I know myself in particular, I get really excited when I come across either of these species. They're quite fun to hang out with. The potato bass tend to be quite curious. They like to come up and kind of check you out, and they like to see what you're doing, so it's quite nice to encounter them underwater. You might have seen these guys on the reef as well. Okay, this is a yellowtail lyre-tail, all right, and you'll see that the tail is a little bit different to the rest of our rock cods here, but we still see that really nice grumpy downwards turned mouth and that rounded pectoral fin here. Okay, so just because the caudal fin is a little bit different, he is still part of the grouper family. And then of course we have our goldies here, so we can see the male over here, nice and brightly colored. I don't know if you can see the filament on that example over there, but trust me, it is there. Okay, and then we see all the females over here as well. So our next group is the rubber lips, or Haemelidae. So these are also kind of heavy-bodied fish, okay, but they've got more of a rounded nape. Now, if you'll remember from yesterday, the nape is the forehead region, okay, so we can see that this bit here is a bit more rounded, all right. The most distinguishing feature on these guys, though, is that thick upper lip. Okay, so the rubber lips are quite, they've got very prominent, thick lips. Okay, so that's why we call them rubber lips. Sometimes we also call them sweet lips, all right? Basically the same thing, yeah, and just that is referring to that really thick upper lip. And yeah, we can find these either solitary or in pairs. It kind of just depends on the species. So having a look at some of our other examples that we may encounter, again, looking for those key distinguishing features, again, that those very thick lips, particularly that upper lip, and then of course that rounded forehead. So over here we've got the lemonfish, all right. This one here is our barred rubber lip. Yeah, just a few weeks before the lockdown started, there was quite a big individual of this species hanging around on Bikini, and we often caught him hunting, which was pretty cool. It was quite nice to see him kind of hunting, and yeah, they kind of hover above the reef, and then they kind of like whack their faces into the reef, obviously looking for whatever it is that they are eating, so they're quite fun to watch. This is our oriental sweet lips, and then this is our white barred rubber lips. You often find this species and this species at the cleaning stations at pinnacles, but then yeah, kind of all over 2 Mile as well, so they're quite common fish that we see. Our next group is parrotfish, or Scaridae. So these are medium to larger fish, okay? They've got oval bodies. You can see that oval shape there. The cool thing about parrotfish is that their teeth are actually adapted. So the teeth have fused to form a hard beak, which they use to scrape algae off the reef. So you can really see that obvious beak-like structure over here. Parrotfish swim with their pectoral fins, okay, so they just kind of flap their pectoral fins. So they look a bit like birds flying through the air, okay, so that's probably one of the reasons they've been called parrotfish, as they do look a bit like birds. Of course, they are very brightly coloured as well, so like a lot of our parrots on land are, they are also lovely and brightly coloured. And then, of course, that beak structure as well. So there's a few reasons why these guys are probably called parrotfish. Okay, so like I mentioned the other day, the parrotfish actually secrete a mucus cocoon at nighttime, which they use to protect themselves while they are sleeping and resting at nighttime. I did post a video that shows how they actually do this, which is quite cool. So do have a look in the related materials section on the classroom to watch that video. Now, there's a couple reasons why we think they actually produce this mucus cocoon. For one, okay, a lot of fish, predatory fish, hunt at nighttime. Okay, so if a fish is sleeping, all right, and the other fish is hunting, the hunting fish will be able to smell and catch that sleeping fish quite easily. And so we think that this mucus cocoon that they secrete actually masks the smell to the predators. Okay, so it keeps them nice and safe while they are sleeping. It also prevents little parasites and that kind of thing from latching onto them while they are sleeping. So there's a couple different reasons, or a couple different benefits, I guess, to that mucus cocoon. So parrotfish are another one of those fish that change coloration and change sex during their lifetime. Okay, so during their life cycle. So all parrotfish will start off as female, okay, and the females are usually a bit more duller in color. So it'll be kind of your muted reds, browns, kind of grayish colors, all right? And then once they mature to males, or once they, reach a certain size, they change their sex to male, okay? And once they reach that male kind of phase in their life cycle, they will then change their coloration to display that. And so the males are usually nice and brightly colored, often beautiful bright blues and greens and pinks and purples and that kind of thing. So often a lot more brightly colored as males. So again, just looking at our various species of parrotfish, okay, again, just looking at those key characteristics. All right, so here's a nice picture that really shows that beak, okay, giving us a lovely smile there. All right, having a look at these other ones, we can see they do use their pectoral fins to kind of swim through the water. We can see that really oval-shaped body, and again, that beak structure that they have there in the front. So again, looking at coloration, all right, all three of these ones will probably be males, okay, because they are showing those really bright, beautiful colors. This one over here, you can see it's a bit duller, it's a bit kind of grey, muted red, muted brown colors. So that is a female parrotfish over there. Then we have our wrasse. Now, wrasse are often wrasse and parrotfish can be quite difficult to identify or distinguish between, because they swim very similarly. So when you have wrasse that are shaped in this kind of oval shaped body like our parrotfish, okay, they also swim with their pectoral fins, so they also look like they are flying through the water. And they also are these beautiful bright colors, so sometimes it's a little bit difficult. So the first thing I want you to do when you see something that looks like it could be a parrotfish or it could be a wrasse is, again, look at that face. Okay, so with wrasse, all right, they will have lips, okay, they don't have that beak-like structure like the parrotfish do. So that is definitely your first thing that you want to look at. Okay, so you'll notice here we've actually got a couple different species of wrasse on this slide, and definitely on the next slide as well I show a bit more of the diversity. But there's no real typical wrasse body shape, okay? So the wrasse is probably one of the largest groups that we have in terms of the number of species in this group, okay? And because there are so many different species, there's a lot of variety in body shape, in roll on the reef, that kind of thing, okay? So it's a bit difficult for me to give you, a typical wrasse body shape, typical wrasse, whatever, okay? There isn't really a typical wrasse, okay? As far as I know, pretty much all of them do swim with their pectoral fins, though. They do use their pectoral fins the most part. So, yeah, that's probably one that you can look out for. We have a few species as well, which actually, they look very different as juveniles compared to adults. So this is one of our examples here. This is a juvenile rock mover wrasse. Okay, so as a juvenile, they've got these, it's really filamentous. They're also quite small, probably only about 2 centimeters, I think. That's kind of the biggest they get when they're juveniles. But they've got these little, I guess, projections on their forehead here, and it kind of flicks around and that kind of thing. But they hang around close to the sand as juveniles, and if they feel threatened, they will dart into the sand and you will really struggle to find them again. Okay, so they will hide themselves into the sand and they're not going to come out. Yeah, so I've tried, trying to dig up the sand to see if I can find them again after they've ducked in, and I just can't. So it's kind of like the Houdini fish. They just disappear. Another quick note is our cleaner wrasse over here. So you guys are probably familiar with the cleaner wrasse already. We did speak about the symbiotic relationships that cleaner wrasse are involved in yesterday, so I'm not going to go too much into detail with those. But yes, just a reminder, we do have our cleaner wrasse as part of this group as well. So having a look at the different species, we can see there is quite a lot of variation here. Okay. So if you have been to Forboy, you've probably interacted with the pale bar hogfish. Okay, that's this guy over here. Yeah, he tends to be quite friendly. As far as I know, he hangs around the Forboy sand patch. I'm sure he does move around a little bit as well, but every time I've seen him, he's always been there. We then have the clown chorus. Okay, so this over here is the adult and this is the juvenile. Okay, so you can see that coloration difference. It's quite, even the body shape is a little bit different. The adult has this, bump on the head and the juvenile doesn't, so that's quite cool. We've got the birdfish over here, so you can see he's got kind of a bit of a longer snout. We've got the lyre-tail hogfish here, so again, another hogfish species. Again, both of these are wrasse. We've got a juvenile razor wrasse over here, so similar to our rock mover wrasse juvenile from the previous slide. This one also, he's got that little projection up on his head here, and he flicks that around as a juvenile, and then, hangs around near the sand and will dart into the sand if he feels threatened. Triple tail wrasse over here, you can see why it is called the triple tail wrasse. It's got these kind of lobed, like 3 lobes on the tail, so quite easy to identify here. And you've probably noticed little fish like this. Okay, a lot of people like to call them leaf wrasse or, leaf fish, paper wrasse, whatever you want to call them. They're actually just juvenile wrasse species. Okay, so a lot of the wrasse, the juveniles look kind of similar to this. Again, very, very small, and it's quite easy to see why people call them, leaf wrasse, that kind of thing. That is because they really do just kind of flit and flick around like, leaves blowing in the wind. So they're quite fun to try spot. Again, very, very small, so definitely do look out for them. They're quite fun to see. Next up, we have our scorpion fish, or Scorpionidae. So these are kind of medium-sized fish with really, chunky bodies. Okay, so stout, rounded bodies. Now, our scorpion fish are well known to be masters of camouflage. Okay, and that's because they've got all these various little skin flaps and tassels and that kind of thing that they grow on them to help them blend into the substrate. And they do that because they are ambush predators. So they will sit on the substrate, so on the coral, on the reef, on the rocks, whatever, wherever they're comfortable really, and they will sit there motionless, blending into their surroundings, waiting for prey to come past. Okay, as that prey comes past, they've got an upward turned mouth, so the mouth is facing upwards and it's nice and big. So as soon as that prey comes close enough, they open their mouth and swallow their prey. Now you'll notice the scorpion fish includes our lionfish and our paperfish, which are quite common, particularly for underwater photographers. I know the photographers love them. They make beautiful photos. So definitely, yeah, they are part of our scorpion fish family. So scorpion fish all have the venom glands, okay, so like the stonefish, okay, they've got these venom glands. Again, I have posted some videos about the stonefish venom glands. I believe the scorpionfish and all the rest of them, it works in the same manner, so do check that out again in the related materials section on the classroom. Yeah, have some fun watching those videos. With some of our other examples here, okay, very common is our lionfish, okay, we do see them quite a lot. Ones that are maybe a bit more difficult to spot, I guess, is our weedy scorpionfish over here, okay. I actually haven't been able to spot one of these myself yet, so if we're ever on a dive and you do find one, please do, you know, point it out to me. I'd love to see it in the water. They look amazing in photographs. I'd love to see one for myself in the water. We have our tasseled scorpionfish over here, and you can see those little you know, tassels down here on the chin, almost like a beard, helping him blend into the substrate. Over here we've got our paperfish, all right, and if you've seen paperfish underwater, you probably know that there's lots of different colors that they can come in. There's a really cool one, again, on Bikini. You can tell Bikini is one of my favorite sites. I talk about it a lot. But yeah, there's one that's sitting on Bikini that it's kind of this, yeah, like the pale, you know, this kind of coloration, but then it's got these little dark blotches all over it, which is pretty cool. So it's not one that's not a coloration we see too often. I don't believe, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, our paperfish. Okay, then we've got our pop-eyed scorpionfish over here again. So these guys, you can see they do have that kind of typical scorpionfish shape. All right, one that you probably don't know that is a scorpionfish, it's actually this little guy. So we often see these ones hiding in amongst the like finger corals and that kind of thing, so your acroporas, postuloperas, those types of coral colonies. This is our yellow spotted scorpionfish. Okay, so if you haven't noticed these before, all right, they are quite common, so do have a look out for them. Yeah, you just need to know where to look when you are looking for these guys. Okay, so our boxfish, Ostracidae. All right, so these ones, again, another favorite amongst many divers. They are medium-sized fish, and they've got a really distinct box-like shape, okay? And that's actually because of these hexagonal bony plates that kind of tessellate and link up together, and it forms this carapace that protects all their organs on the inside. Okay, so that's why they have this really distinct box-like shape. These guys have very small fins, you know, relative to their body size, okay? And they actually don't have any pelvic fins. So the pelvic fins, if they did have them, would probably be in this area over here, okay? But they don't have them. They lack pelvic fins, so there are no fins kind of sitting more towards the front of the body. You'll notice they have quite small mouths, okay, small, like we call pouty mouths, okay, so they, yeah, they do like to pout their lips, pulling the duck face all the time. But yeah, so that is one of their key characteristics, is that really box-like shape and that small pouty mouth. They don't swim very well. If you've ever seen them in the water, you know, they look quite, you know, clumsy when they're in the water. They don't look like they swim too well, and that's okay. they look after themselves in other ways. So like we have written on the slide here, they deter predators by secreting a poisonous mucus. So that's exactly right. They've got this, yeah, they produce this mucus that kind of coats their skin. It gives them a foul taste. Predators don't like it. That's also why they have these really bright colors often, is that they can be used as warning colors to predators to say, hey, I don't taste good. Don't even try to eat me, you know? I've got an example here of one of the juvenile boxfish. Okay, so the juveniles are absolutely tiny. So they're probably only about the size of your fingernail, all right? And again, super cool to see. I always get very, very excited when I see the juveniles. They're just so, so cute. Having a look at our different species. So we've got our white spotted boxfish over here. Okay, this is actually the male of the white spotted boxfish, and this is the female. So again, these guys have different colorations depending on what sex they are. And then of course we have our male and female boxy, okay, or cube boxfish, depending on what you want to call it. But yeah, so I've got the males up at the top and the females down at the bottom for these two species. Again, looking at those key characteristics, we can see in all of these examples, they do have that really distinct box-like shape and that small pouty mouth. So that's definitely what you want to be looking out for when you are identifying these. Now, comparing those boxfish to pufferfish, okay, so pufferfish are in another family, Tetraodontidae. Now, your pufferfish, they have more of a rounded body. So we can see their bellies are a little bit rounder, okay? They look like they've had a really nice Christmas lunch, you know? I think we all feel like that after Christmas time. Yeah, so they've got more of that rounded body. Again, you know, the relatively small mouth, okay? And yeah, so it's quite easy to get the two confused with each other. But again, you want to look for, yeah, that rounded body on these guys. Again, they've also got, you know, relatively small fins compared to their body size. Again, they also don't swim too well, so they also look a bit clumsy underwater. These guys also have that, the poisonous, the toxin that they secrete, and it's actually called tetraodotoxin. Okay, so here's the word over here, tetraodotoxin. So the skin and the internal organs are coated in that. So definitely predators do not want to try eat these guys because they can get really sick from trying to eat them. Another thing that pufferfish do to protect themselves is that they actually puff themselves up. So that's how they got their name as pufferfish. All right, and to do that, they swallow water. So they take big gulps of water when they feel threatened, and they pump it all into their bodies, and that helps them puff themselves up. Okay, but this can be quite, you know, harmful to the fish. Okay, when they puff themselves up like that, they squash their organs kind of out the way, and you know, their main, I guess, instinct is just kind of surviving this immediate threat, okay, which is, you know, a predator or something trying to attack them, and so they are going to puff themselves up. But yeah, it does cause quite a significant amount of physiological stress, so a lot of yeah, internal stress and damage and that kind of thing. So I know of, or I've heard stories of divers, you know, purposefully coming and prodding and antagonizing these guys and trying to make them puff up to, again, get a nice good photo. All right, we don't want to do that. We don't want to cause any unnecessary stress or anything like that. Again, we always want to be passively observing the aquatic environment. We are lucky to be able to go in there and, yeah, enjoy what we see, okay, but we don't want to have any negative effects on the aquatic environment. So looking at some of our examples, okay, we've got our guinea fowl puffer, our white spotted puffer, and our black spotted puffer, okay. Then we've got some tobies over here. So I didn't mention that in the previous slide, but yes, so your tobies, so things like your model tobie, you know, the false eye tobie over here, your yeah, all of your tobies are also part of the pufferfish family. Okay, so they're like a little small kind of subsection of the pufferfish family. So if you do see any of them, you can group them in with your pufferfish. Okay, and you can see those similar characteristics. Again, that nice rounded body, okay, small fins compared to the body size, you know, rounded pectoral fins and little pouty mouths. Then we have our porcupine fish, or Diodontidae. So again, very similar looking to our pufferfish, and they behave quite similarly as well. So again, they've got, rounded, bulbous bodies. Okay, again, that little small mouth. The same pectoral fins, so relatively small fins compared to the body size. All of that stuff. They can puff themselves up, as we know, with the same kind of consequences as the pufferfish experience. Okay, the differences here are that the porcupine fish have larger eyes, so the eyes are a lot bigger on the porcupine fish, and then of course they have all these spines that sit on their bodies, so you can see them quite obviously in this example here, and of course when they puff up, those spines actually poke out. So that's really, a predator is not going to try and attack that fish over there. So yeah, you can see though that defense mechanism quite well. Again, same story. We don't want to be, purposefully making these guys puff up. Again, they experience the same levels of stress as the pufferfish, so we don't want to do anything that might harm them. Alrighty, so now that we've gone through our various fish families, we're just going to have a bit of a practice run before you do your quiz today. So again, I'm going to flick through some of these pictures with you guys. I'll talk through some of those key characteristics that I want you to look for. And then just while you're sitting at home, you can maybe try guess before I tell you the answer. So for this one, again, we're seeing a rounded body, or sorry, a oval shaped body. Okay, it's probably swimming with its pectoral fins. We can see it's really nice and brightly colored. Okay, so we're going to guess that it's either a wrasse or a parrotfish. Okay, so remember, when we are trying to distinguish between the two, we are going to look for look at the face. Okay, so again, having a look over here, we can see that there is a clear beak. So this fish is scraping algae off the reef. Okay, so we're going to guess that it is a parrotfish, and if we did guess that, we would be correct. Okay, next up, again, another, brightly colored fish, again, that oval shaped body. Also looks like it's swimming with its pectoral fins. Okay, but if we have a look over here, we can see that there's not really much of a beak structure. Okay, and that is because that is a wrasse. So they have lips, they don't have that beak structure. All right, this one. Okay, so we can see it's more of a robust body. Okay, and we can see really nice rounded pectoral fins. And again, that grumpy downwards facing mouth. Okay, so we're going to guess grouper or cod. That is the family that one belongs to. All right, here we've got something that looks, like a pufferfish or something like that. Okay, so it's got, that rounded body. Okay, we can see it's a bit rounder here. Again, the fins look, relatively small for its body size. The body looks quite big here. Those fins are relatively small, but we see here there's some nice big eyes, okay, and we can see little spines along the body here. So if you guessed porcupine fish, you are right. All right, this one already we can tell that it is camouflaging quite well into its environment. So in case you guys can't see it, these are the eyes over here. Okay, so this is the head region, this is the tail sitting over here, here is a pectoral fin. All right, and we can see it's just sitting nice and motionless on the ground. Okay, so it's well camouflaged, it's sitting at the bottom, so it's an ambush predator. We can see that nice big mouth that's facing upwards, waiting for that prey to come overhead. And so if you guessed scorpion fish, you got it. Okay, here's another, really robust looking fish. Okay, nice, stocky, chunky, strong looking body, nice rounded pectoral fins, okay, and that big mouth with, looking kind of grumpy. So again, this is one of our groupers or rock cods, okay. This particular one is our potato bass. So this is one of our favorites as divers. We love seeing these guys. Okay, next up, okay, this one looks a bit similar to the rock cod. It's got that, rounded, or I guess strong looking body again as well, but if we have a look at the face, it's a bit more rounded, so we can see the forehead is a little bit more rounded, and they've got really thick lips here. Okay, so those lips are quite prominent. So if you guessed rubber lips, you are right. All right, here's another one. Okay, we know this one. This is our lionfish. All right, quite a classic classic example of a lionfish here. Those beautiful spines along the top and these beautiful pectoral fins that are quite obvious underwater as well. They're quite beautiful to see. And remember, the lionfish are part of the scorpionfish family. So if you guessed scorpionfish, you got it. Okay, here's another one. So this one, okay, we can see it's, it's one of those fish that there's not really a distinct or typical fish shape or body shape for this species. All right, but having a look at its face, we can see that it does have a mouth. So if you guessed wrasse, you are right. Of course, this is our cleaner wrasse. So these guys have very important roles on the reef, so we do see them quite often. Okay, next up we have this guy. So he's also looking a bit, he's got quite of a box-like shape. It looks quite rigid. The little pouty mouth over here, the big, nice rounded pectoral fins. Okay, so if you guessed boxfish, you are correct. And I realized that I said he. If you guys remember, this is actually a she. Okay, so this is our female white-spotted boxfish. Okay, so this one looks quite similar to the previous one. Hey, so again, the same coloration pretty much. But again, if we have a look at those characteristics, we can see the belly is a little bit rounded. Okay, so it's a bit more bulbous looking. The pectoral fins are still nice and round. The mouth is still pouty. The eyes are relatively small though. So if you guessed pufferfish, you are correct. Okay, here's another colorful fish. So we've got, lovely, colorful, really bright and vibrant colors on this fish. It's probably swimming with its pectoral fins. Okay, so having a look at these ones here, it's probably swimming with these ones. Having a look at its face, okay, those look like lips to me. So if you did guess wrasse, you are correct. All right, this one, so we can see he's got that, the little pouty mouth, the rounded body, relatively small fins here, relatively small eyes. If you guessed pufferfish, you are correct. Okay, so this is one of our tobies, our sharp-nosed tobies. And remember, the tobies are part of the pufferfish family. Okay, so this is a pufferfish. Okay, this is one of the really cute ones. Okay, remember I told you these ones, they're only about the size of your fingernail, okay? And that is because it is a juvenile. All right, so we can see it's got quite a rigid box-like shape, okay? So that's quite a, I guess, good clue as to what it is. It is a boxfish or boxy. And this is our last one that we're going to look at. So again, having a look here, it's got that really kind of strong, robust body, okay? But that rounded forehead is quite obvious here. And again, those really prominent, thick lips. So if you guessed rubber lips, you are correct. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm just going to get my chat up again so I can see. We've got some time now for questions. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment them in the chat here, and I'll try to answer a few. Yeah, so the cowfish are part of the boxfish family. They've also got those bony plates that give them that rigid kind of structure. What triggers the change of sex in parrotfish? That's a great question, Hannah. As far as I know, it is hormones. So it's just, yeah, the internal kind of clock that they have, that once they reach a certain size, those hormones start getting produced, and then they transition into their next phase of life, I guess. The battle of pouties. I like it. Yeah, lots of pouty fish today. Yeah, so glad you guys enjoyed it. I'm again sorry about the issues we were experiencing this morning, but thank you for being patient. Thank you for yeah, being eager to learn and not letting little issues drive you away. We are very grateful that you chose to stick around. Yeah, just waiting for some more questions if there are any. I guess while we wait, just a reminder that we do have that Facebook page that you can go and post questions on as well, particularly for like when the course finishes. Okay, that will be a really nice place for you to continue this discussion of marine life and that kind of thing. And then, yeah, our YouTube page as well. Feel free to subscribe to that. Again, we are going to be posting a bit more content on this one as well, so definitely do stick around for that. Why does the male parrotfish have different blue colors? Okay, that's just the different species. So there's just a whole lot of species of parrotfish. So yeah. Difference between parrotfish and wrasses in size. Okay, that's a good question. Again, with the wrasse, extremely varied group. Okay, so again, there's not really any typical wrasse shape, so there's not really any typical wrasse size. Okay, so your smaller wrasse, like your cleaner wrasse, for example, maybe about 2 to 3 centimeters long, but then you get your humphead or Maori wrasse, which can be, I think a meter long. Parrotfish pretty much the same, anywhere between less than 10 centimeters to, over 50 centimeters in length. So it kind of just depends on the species. Frogfish. Frogfish are in a family all on their own, I believe. Let me quickly check my reef guide here that I have right next to me. Let me quickly give that a check for you. It would probably actually be easier if I just Googled this, but like I said, I'm old school. I like the old school thing. So frogfish are part of the anglerfish family. So yeah, they are part of the anglerfish, or Antennaridae. Okay, so that is your frogfish. Sorry, just looking at more questions on the side here. Let me actually make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Is it true that in a few reefs, parrotfish cocoon themselves to hide their body temperature from blacktip reef sharks? I'm not sure about that. I haven't heard of that in particular, but like I said, they do cocoon themselves to protect themselves from predators. Definitely for the smell, at least. Not too sure about body temperature. Cool. Yeah, again, does the mucus layer let through electrical signals that would betray the parrotfish to predators? I guess I'm not sure actually, because I know that obviously when something is resting, its heart rate goes down, so all of its movement is kind of slowed and I guess quietened in a sense, and then obviously having that layer of mucus might mute it a little bit. I don't know if it stops it completely, but I think it definitely does, quiet it and make it a bit slower, or a bit more muted. Are stonefish part of the scorpionfish family? As far as I know, yes, they are. They are part of the scorpionfish family. Is there any particular reason for grouping specific fishes in each Fish ID lecture? I think I was kind of going for like grouping fish that might be easily confused, I guess, with each other. Just to make it a bit easier, because it tends to be a bit easier for us to learn when you can see differences like right after the other. So for example, the boxfish, the pufferfish, and the porcupine fish, they are 3 distinct families of fish, but I always group them up so that you can see those differences, if that makes sense. So I guess it's more of a teaching kind of reason. It's got nothing to do with relatedness or anything like that, if that makes sense. What happens to the mucus cocoon when they wake? So I've heard that the parrotfish actually eats it. So the parrotfish, I think it takes about an hour for the parrotfish to create the mucus cocoon, okay? They go to sleep, they sleep in their little mucus cocoon, and then when they wake up and they eat it. So they've got breakfast ready for them, which is great. Enjoy your afternoon. Thanks so much for joining. Do go and try the quiz if you haven't already. I'll hang around for a few more questions if there are any. Otherwise, do enjoy your day, everybody. Thank you again for being patient. Tune in tomorrow to do another reef fish identification lecture. Yeah, so mucus is it's quite an expensive thing to create in the animal kingdom. It's quite energetically costly to create it, so it would be quite wasteful in terms of resources and that kind of thing if they didn't recycle it. Okay, so when they eat it again, it's just recycling that energy, recycling those nutrients, and just kind of trying to get it all working again. Get it into the cycle again. All right, everybody, see you. I see a lot of people saying goodbye. Thank you so much, Lisa. If the quiz is not out right now, it will be going up very soon. Rob will be posting it for us nice and soon, so you guys can go try it out while the knowledge is still fresh in your minds. Okay, just waiting on any last minute questions. Alright, let's check that I didn't ignore any up here while I've still got time. Okay, all right, bye everybody, have a great afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.